Lesson 9, part 3. I think we've done most of the hard work in getting Stripe up and running. So all the code is on GitHub if you need it. So how do we actually test the payment? Good question. Check out. We'll fill out our form again. And now when I click Pay Now, it invokes Stripe, takes us here. Now Stripe has testing card numbers for this. So if we look at their documentation, here we're in the Stripe checkout, but if I scroll down to the bottom under testing, it's got basic over on the right, basic test card numbers. So if I click that, it shows you that you can use these different card numbers. So I can copy this one, for a to simulate, try a Visa transaction. And then they've got international card numbers. And we can also test for specific errors we want. So I'm going to just use this basic card number with any future date and any card validation code. So I'll just put in my email address. I'll paste in my card number. I can put in any month and year so long as it's in the future. Any card validation. So I'll just fill out the form here. And then once I filled it out, I should be able to click the Pay button. Locks the form. And now it redirects me back to shop save order, which was our success URL. So it looks like the payment worked in the Stripe sandbox. We can actually check it in the Stripe dashboard. So if in my dashboard I click on payments, we can see here is my $34.97 payment dated today with this customer, gives me a payment code as well. Right? I can see it does a risk score, it shows the credit card, my postal code, and that the item was last chapter purchase, my fee, so Stripe takes a cut of it. So this way also, if there's some kind of dispute around the payment, customer says, I never paid that, why did I get a charge from the last chapter? We can go in and we can see those details. For example, our customer says, hey, I paid, but I never got my order. Well, we can see in the Stripe dashboard, we can search, we can filter, if you want to look for a particular customer, for example, or date. You can export this to like a CSV. And it tells us the payment succeeded. We can even see my incomplete attempt from earlier. Right? When I click cancel, that's here as well. It at least gives us info. Okay, well, somebody got here. It created the session successfully, but the user clicked cancel. So now we need to write this save order method, which is fairly involved, but now we're just back in our own MVC world. We're past the Stripe part now. So we want to build this save order method in our shop controller. So it's redirecting to save order after a successful payment on the Stripe site. So this is where we'll get sent after we pay successfully on Stripe. Our method takes no parameters. We don't have to send anything in because all the information we need is actually in our session variable, right? All the information is here. So read order from session var. So again, so we're going to call get object. So it's going to be our models.order. And the session variable was called order with a capital O. So this object, it's got all the information about our order. It's got the customer information. It also has all of the everything we've populated previously prior to the payment. It's already in here. We want to save new order to DB. Local context.orders.add. And then we'll just commit that to the database. So this is going to take all that information from the checkout form, the customer first name, last name, address, city, province, postal code, phone number. We've already populated it with the purchase date and the customer's email. All that stuff gets saved to the orders table right here. So that's going to generate an order. But we need to do a few other things. What other things should happen after we generate a new order? That's only kind of the start of it. What else do we need to do here? Okay, yeah, we'll want to show the user. We could either display a message. I think what we'll do at the end is we'll show the order confirmation page. So that'll be last. So we will do that at the end. Yep. We've got to do a few other things in between here. So this creates an order. But I think there's probably 3 more steps that have to happen before we can get down to the end. What else should happen in the middle? There's something else we have to save to the database. Okay, yes, Hannah, we'll do that down at the bottom. Yeah, we will want to empty the cart. True. And then 2 other things that should happen. What do we have to do after we save the order, but before we empty the cart? What else do we need to do? Very critical. Give you a clue. Let's look at the models. Right. We've got to save each cart item as a new order detail record. And then we can empty the cart and we can also clear the session variables. So we no longer need, we'll destroy this object once we're done. We don't want it to persist once we save it to the database. So first we need to go and get the cart items. I think we can just read it here. So we're going to go and get the items in the cart. And then we're going to loop through, and we're basically going to copy each cart item to a new order detail record. Right, so we'll copy the book ID, the quantity, price, and we also need the primary key value. So this is kind of cool. Up until this point, right, our order object, we've got all the properties, but the primary key is null. One of the cool things about the way Entity Framework works, once we call save changes, the order ID will automatically now change from null. It gets populated. We don't have to query the database to fetch the new ID. We'll run this with the debugger and we can actually see this. So then we can set the order ID equal to our order dot order ID. So the PK populates automatically. So we can use as FK in the child records. So as soon as we call save changes, the order ID property of our object will update from null to whatever the new order ID is. And then we can use it as we save all the line items. So now we'll need to, for each one of these, we'll add each object. And then rather than save them individually, we add each object to the DB set and we just commit the changes when we're done. So this will insert however many line items there are. It might be one book, it might be 400, we don't know. We can then delete all of the cart items. So we'll loop through again. So we need to save them first, and then we'll loop again to delete them. And then we'll commit the changes again. We'll also set our order object to null. So now if the user goes back to their cart, it's going to tell them, the page will tell them their cart is empty. And so we're going to create an order. We're going to grab the cart items. We're going to basically convert each cart item into an order detail tied to the primary key of our order. We'll insert all those order detail items, and then we're going to remove everything so the user's cart will be empty. And we're also nulling out that session object. We don't need it anymore. And lastly, we will return a redirect. So this is going to be a little different. We're going to use a different overload here. We're going to use this overload. The action name is going to be details. The controller name is going to be orders. We're going to scaffold an orders controller. And then we want to pass in the primary key, the order ID, so that the user sees a confirmation. So our first param here will be details. Our second one will be orders. And then we're going to set a new ID parameter, which will be our order object, order ID. Before we try this, we could just scaffold the orders controller. Why not? And then instead of getting a blank screen, if this works, we're actually going to get a visible confirmation page that the scaffolder will generate for us. We'll have to modify it, but so now I'll just go to my controllers. I'm going to add a controller. By now everyone knows how to scaffold. We will use a controller with views using Entity Framework. And the only thing we have to do is pick the order model. So this is going to give us a bunch of methods and views for doing CRUD operations with orders. Now, we're not going to need most of this. We can get rid of a lot of it. We really only need the index and details. But that's okay. I'll just generate it and leave it alone. I'll change it later. So I'll let this run. I will add authorize, because if you're not logged in, you should not be able to have anything to do with the orders. And then we'll just need to reference the authorization package. So I'm not going to change any of this code here. We're just going to require authentication here. Now I can try the entire process from cart, checkout, payment, and I should get a confirmation at the end. And then we can look in the database and we should have an order created, order details that are child data using that foreign key, as well as our cart should be empty. So I'm going to go through the whole process. We're getting close to where we want to be. So my cart is still persisting. I'll go to checkout. I'll hit Pay Now to invoke Stripe. I'll just use, whoops. I noticed that card is not a valid testing card. I didn't mean to put a 4 there at the end, but it'll take that card. I'll go to pay. And now I get an order confirmation. I see I've got order number 1. It saved my email and timestamped it. And it's got all the info from my checkout page. Cool. Now I'll want to look in the database and see, are the order details there as well? And also, is my cart, if I go back to the cart, it should be empty now, which it is. Cool, so it cleared out the cart. I do want to look in the database though and check the order details, because I also want to be able to see both the order number as well as the order details in here. So I'm just going to check my database quickly. So when I look in order details, cool, I can see I've got my books here. Now we want to show these as well. This is not a great order confirmation. My order number isn't visible. It's only visible in the URL, so it should be here. And I should also have the order details showing up. We probably don't need, I guess the customer ID is okay. So let's go to our order details view and let's kind of clean this up. Right, we scaffolded the view. So now under views, we've got an order subfolder. Let's open up the details. I'm going to change the title and heading so they both say order details. I also want to display in the heading maybe instead of details, this should say order number. And now I can use my model.order ID. So the page heading should actually show the order number. Because if I need to call the store or contact them for some reason, right, that order ID, that's how I identify, that distinguishes, that's the unique identifier for my order. Now it says order number 1. I'm going to take out the edit link and the payment code down at the bottom. I'll keep the back to list. We'll deal with that after. I'm going to get rid of the edit. I'm also going to get rid of this last section for the payment code. We'll just exclude that for now. But the other thing I want to add after this list is I want to display the items. Let's see. So let's create a table. Oops. Sorry. So we've got a book. It will be title. This should be a TH. Price and quantity. And then we can use a loop to display the child data in here as well. So notice we should have access to the child data automatically. Our model has this child property. So when we select the order, it should include the order details. It should include the child data automatically, I think. If not, we can modify it in the controller. We've got our item dot book title. So the price and quantity, those come straight from order details, but the title is not directly in order details, it's in the book. So we'll see how this comes out. So I've added this table at the bottom. It might work, it might not. If not, we have to make a change in the controller. Okay. It's not pulling in the order details by default. It says that object is not, reference doesn't exist. So we need to make a little adjustment in the controller method. That's fine. We will explicitly change the query so when it fetches this one order, it also fetches the child data. Yes, to preserve memory, that join is not done automatically. So in the orders controller, in my details method, in here, here's the query on line 38 and 39. It should be the same for everybody. Should be able to say dot include. Include the details. So I'm going to add this. Okay, so now we're still getting an object reference not sent to an instance of an object, but that's because now we're trying to get the order details parent, the book title. So we need another include. The orders has to include the child data. The order details has to include the book. So it'll be then include. Let me think about this one for a minute. Yeah, then we are including the book. So this is doing two joins, orders down to order details and order details up to book. So now we can see the items in the order as well. Right, so we're including child data to order details and parent data to the book. And we should also probably format this as currency and show the total. So similar logic to what we did on our cart page. So we'll go back to the order details. Here I'll use our string.format. You know what? I think I'll leave the title out for now. Good enough. We'll format it as currency. So now what we can do is we can also, we've got this order index, right? So now I can see this page. We can actually make this an order history page for each customer. So as a customer, I will only see my own orders, and as an administrator, I can see all the orders. And we can put an orders link in the nav bar so that when someone is logged in, they have access to it. We'll do that, and then which will involve a little change to the query here, and then we're going to call it a day. Okay, so we can work with this orders index a little bit. So let's go to orders and index. And change the title to say order history. We're going to get rid of the create new button. We don't create orders this way. You have to shop through the store. Maybe to simplify this, I'll just remove some of the fields here. I'm going to remove payment code. Maybe I'll just keep in the city. I'll remove phone and postal code as well. Just simplify it. I'll keep 6 fields: customer ID, purchase date, first name, last name, city, province. That'll be enough on the order history page because they're still going to have the details links. I'll get rid of address as well in the loop, as well as payment code. So we're just showing 6 columns, and I'm going to get rid of the edit and the delete links as well. So there's just going to be a details link beside each order. Okay, so I'll save that page. So I've got 6 headings and 6 columns along with the details link. So now it just kind of looks like this. I'm going to put a link in the nav bar that will become visible when someone logs in. And then we'll need to filter this list as well. I'll make another order with my Google account, and then the list should be filtered so the customers only see their own orders, can't see someone else's. So I'll go back to my layout. I'll copy my cart link and say if our user.identity is authenticated, we will show them a link to the order index that says orders. So when I'm logged in, I will get this link, but I can click and view my orders. Okay, so I just copied one of these links. I changed the controller to orders, the action to index, and the text says orders. Anonymous users won't see this. If you're not logged in, we're not going to show you a link to go look up an order history. Okay, so now I can navigate around. I can get to my order history. I can view the order details. I can go back. If I log out, that disappears. If I try to get there, go back to orders, I'm prompted to log in. So now I'm going to make an order with my Google account, and then we're going to need to add a filter to both the order index and order details to check that customers can only see their own orders. Administrators can see everything, but customers obviously shouldn't be able to see anybody else's order. So to simulate this, I need to make orders as 2 different customers. So I'll start shopping. I like Michael Lewis, so I'll keep shopping. We'll go back to nonfiction. Get a couple Michael Lewis books. this time. I'll go to checkout. I'm going to log in with Google this time. Oops. So I'm going to put in different information on my checkout. That's interesting. Why is my payment 0? Let's try that again. Didn't expect that. I thought I was golden. So it's saying my total is 0. Okay, debugger, tell me what's going on. Okay, so my order got my information. Notice my order ID is 0 to start. That's fine. So total. It's $54.94. I have no explanation for that. But I'll just carry on. And just while we're at it, I'll put a breakpoint in here so we can see the order, how it populates the order ID. Why not? So I'll pay. Brings me here. So notice my order right now, the order ID is 0, but as soon as the next line executes, now my order ID has been populated as order ID 2. So I don't have to run a separate query to fetch that new primary key. Now I'll just continue. So now I've got order ID 2, which is good. The issue is I can see all the orders now. I can go in and look up this other user's order. So we need a filter on both queries so that we're sure users can only see their own orders. And that's the last thing we are going to have time to implement. So I'm going to go to the orders controller. First of all, on index, we've got to modify the query. So if admin, user can see all orders. Not admin, user can only see their own. So if our user is an administrator, then we're just going to grab all the orders. Otherwise, we're going to say .where so we're filtering the order list. So as an administrator, I can see everything, but as a customer, I can only see my own. And we'll need to do the same thing, similar logic in the details. We're going to check, is it the person a customer or an administrator? If they're an administrator, they can see the order details for anybody. But as a customer, if they change the ID parameter, we need to know that the order they're asking for is their own. Here. I'll have to start my server again. Okay, so I'm logged in with my Ontario Tech, but now when I go to the orders, I only see my order. If I log out and log in first as a customer, again, I only see my own order. As an administrator, I should see everybody's. So we fix this page. We also just need a little bit of logic in the details. So the administrator can see both, which is fine. So I don't see that other order as a customer, but I could just do this. Hey, change the ID, and now I can see someone else's order. So we need a little logic in the details method. It's the last thing we will do to prevent this. If I'm logged in as this user, I can't see an order that belongs to someone else. So before we do this, we'll say if our user is in the role, which I guess it would be if the user is not administrator, we'll say if order customer ID does not equal we're going to return an unauthorized message, a 401 response. So if you're not an administrator and the customer for this order is not you, you're unauthorized. So this should prevent one customer from changing that ID parameter and seeing someone else's order. So now I can see my own. I mean, we could return an error, I guess, as well. But good enough for now. If I see it in the browser console, we'll see the unauthorized. Whoops, sorry, no. It'll be good enough for now. So if I go to the network tab and refresh, it returns a 401, which is an unauthorized status code. Probably sufficient for now. So now I can only see my own orders. As the administrator, it's fine though. I can see everybody's. So I can go to orders, see this customer's, or that customer. Doesn't matter, I have full access when I'm an administrator. But as a customer, I only get my own. Right now I'm here, if I try and go somewhere else, can't do it. Now I know there are other things we could do with our cart. We haven't added every piece of functionality. We can't update the quantities. We didn't get time to put in a little badge here. We're not sending confirmation emails, but we've done quite a bit with it. Okay. I'm going to upload everything that we've done. Are there any questions from today before we wrap up? I'm not going to be testing you on Stripe payment. It's not a core learning objective of the course. It was just something I thought was kind of nice to expose you to. But don't worry if you have issues with the Stripe payment, you're not going to be tested on it. It's not going to be in any assignment. Our next 2 weeks, we're going to look at unit testing with ASP.NET, and I'll give out assignment 4 at the start of next week's class. Okay, the only thing you have to do for this week, there is a quiz that is due on Sunday, and I will have your assignment 3 marks back to you in the next few days. Okay, I know that was a lot to take in for today. Thanks for your participation, attendance, contributions. Take a deep breath. Have a good week.